I don't remember what was the company. Maybe, I don't know whether it was IBM or somebody. Anyway, there was a guy that put some kind of small podium with a microphone yelling at everybody, like a salesman, come to our raffle, come to our raffle. That was so tragically funny, man. I did not believe that people still do that.
This is DevOps Paradox, episode number 165, looking back at KubeCon EU 2022. Welcome to DevOps Paradox. This is a podcast about random stuff in which we, Darren and Victor, pretend we know what we're talking about. Most of the time, we mask our ignorance by putting the word DevOps everywhere we can and mix it with random buzzwords like Kubernetes, serverless, CI/CD, team productivity, islands of happiness, and other fancy expressions that make us sound like we know what we're doing. Occasionally, we invite guests who do know something, but we do not do that often since they might make us look incompetent. The truth is out there, and there is no way we are going to find it. P.S. It's Darren reading this text and feeling embarrassed that Victor made me do it. Here are your hosts, Darren Pope and Victor Farsick. Now, at the time you're listening to this, it's towards the end of June. We're recording this towards the end of May, which means Victor just got back from KubeCon.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think?
For me, it was absolutely fantastic. And I think that everybody I know really enjoyed it. I think being locked at your home for 2 years helped that feeling. Hey, there are people. People exist. It's not a hoax. I'm not seeing virtual people anymore. So it was really great. I enjoyed it greatly. I think that everybody, at least everybody I spoke with, and I spoke with a lot of people, were very positive about whole KubeCon.
The other thing that happened to you, which you and I talked about offline, was people were coming up to get selfies with you.
I'm not used to it, man. I'm not. I might not sound like that maybe in streams and stuff, but I'm introvert, right? So for me, that was very strange. But I guess that's also effect of COVID, right? I'm not going to. I did not go to conferences and stuff like that. I produced a lot of video content for YouTube, and kind of people recognize me with a mask. I'm now afraid what will happen in Detroit when I'm maybe without a mask.
Well, more than likely, yeah. Of course, who knows? That's going to be in, when is that one? When is KubeCon NA?
I think it's October or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So who knows what's going to happen by October? Now, we could ramble about this. And in fact, in another episode, we'll talk more about events in general. But of course, Victor, in his very Victor ways, skipped every session that existed at KubeCon EU.
I successfully managed to skip every single session. I don't know whether I should be embarrassed or proud of that. I was really looking forward to see my colleagues, my ex-colleagues, my friends, people I know from the industry. So for me, KubeCon was a great opportunity to chat with people, to meet people, to hang out with people. All the things that we haven't been doing for a while now. So I thought it was better usage of my time to actually hang out in, one-to-one conversations with people than go to talks. I can see the talks on YouTube.
So in talking with those people, did they go to any sessions and were they asking you about any of the session content?
I don't know. I wasn't so proud of not going to sessions, so I'm not. It's not something I advertise.
I know. But you were talking to lots of people. So what were other people saying about the conference or things that they were learning, or what do you think the big things out of KubeCon EU were?
So I'm not sure whether there were a big time of revolutionary things. It was, from my perspective, it was more about stabilizing, consolidating the whole, let's call it cloud native section of the industry. So I'm not sure that there were revolutionary things, but yeah, making things more stable, making things work better in a way, right? And a lot of stuff is really exciting stuff, but not exciting kind of like never seen before. But hey, this is now finally working. It's coming from quite a few companies. Like I was pleasantly surprised with some of them, like VMware, for example, doing some really, really cool stuff. VMware is not the type of company I typically am focused on, but hey, amazing stuff coming out of there, and quite a few others. I mean, it sounds like I singled out VMware. It's just the first thing that came to my mind, right? And also what is very interesting is a huge focus on security, right? Many, many companies in security space, more than I expected, to be honest.
Well, I was looking at, in VMware, again, at the time we're recording this, there have been overtures that Broadcom is going to buy VMware. At the time we're recording, that hasn't happened, but by the time you're listening to this, it might have happened. So
maybe.
We just don't know. And I was just checking the news to see if anything had happened yet, but I don't see anything. What was interesting in this KubeCon compared to previous is we saw some announcements the week before KubeCon and really 2 weeks before KubeCon. And that's fairly normal to sometimes get out in front, and that way you can stand a little bit. But while you were there and I was just watching my news feeds, I really didn't see a whole lot. There didn't just seem to be a whole lot of news.
That's my impression. Again, I haven't been on talks, so some things might have been announced on talks, which I doubt, because talks are usually in KubeCon not about announcements. But I have a feeling that it's more about consolidation than, amazing things coming. Like, we didn't announce anything yet. And I don't think that many companies did.
Do you think that could be part of just holding out until NA? Because NA tends to be a bigger, I mean, it's not that it's bigger, but I don't know.
But it's, I think that it's also kind of changed compared to pre-COVID years, right? Because pre-COVID we had, in one KubeCon, something called service mesh, and we made the first dashboard for Kubernetes, and announcements like that. And I think that it's in a way good that we are not getting those life-changing announcements anymore, because that means that the industry, at least those within CNCF, are mature now, more mature than before, right? I think that we are moving from doing pioneering work into consolidation in a way.
So I'm assuming you spent a lot of time on the show floor. I'm assuming you were in your company's booth for a good part of the time.
Yes.
Did you walk around the show floor any?
Oh man, my legs were hurting. I was actually walking much more than being at the booth. Now, if anybody from my company is listening, I apologize. But
you were in the booth the whole time. You never left the booth. Okay.
Never. Yeah, in spirit.
Yes.
No. That's the most time I spent is actually going from one booth to another and then hey, how you doing? And chatting with people.
What were some of those interesting ones?
Before actually the booth started, day zero or whatever it's called, the pre-conference workshops, I was extremely surprised how well attended were GitOps related workshops. That's probably the star of the first day. There were 2 tracks in parallel, which almost never happens on the workshops day, in parallel about GitOps. And people were standing. So big places, a lot of people, and they couldn't accommodate everybody, all of those who signed up. It was massive. So if I would single out something on the first day or 0 day, that would be GitOps. That's the winner, I think.
In that day 0, did they actually even define what GitOps was? Or are we still fighting over that definition?
Oh, that's a complicated story because I know about what happened from being outside, not inside. I thought I registered, and then when I tried to enter it, it turned up that I didn't. I couldn't get in. But But it's cool because I met with afterwards. I met in chat with Argo folks and with Flux folks, and they were
Not at the same time,
surprised.
I'm assuming, right?
Not at the same time. Oh no. Oh, it's not only now we're getting. It's not only Flux against Argo CD. Now it's one company in Argo CD against another company in Argo CD. We're getting even more separation or animosity, which is good, I guess. Competition.
That's true. Is it really only just the two on the Argo side?
I mean, there are two kind of potentially big players, which would be Codefresh and Acuity, and then quite a few other smaller ones.
Okay, so that's day 0. What about day 1?
Day 1 started as a disaster. Actually,
did you oversleep? Is that what it was?
No, I didn't. I mean, I didn't sleep much, but I did appear there. That was kind of disappointing experience. So when I said that I didn't go to any talks, I lied. I was on first half of the keynote, and I feel that CNCF went too far in being too commercialized, right?
What do you mean by that?
Meaning, you had companies, I'm not going to name, right? But companies that are not even software industry companies, going on a stage talking about, hey, I have, look at me, I have 100 clusters. And kind of like, why do I care about that, right? Like one of the car automakers, right? So keynote was very, very commercialized. The whole KubeCon, actually. I have relatively negative feelings, to be honest, about CNCF. It's becoming too commercialized. Too much money is flowing through it without clear understanding why. Because after all, CNCF is not a commercial entity, right? It's a non-profit organization. And keynote kind of proved my suspicions. I haven't, the part that I was in, I did not hear anything of value, to be honest.
And that's opposite of what you'd heard from previous keynotes.
I mean, there was always, you're a platinum sponsor. You put money, you get on a stage for a keynote. There was always that.
But that's understood, right?
Yeah.
That. I mean, what you're saying is it felt a lot more than just that this time.
First, it felt a lot more. Second, what I'm questioning is, hey, this is not, let's say QCon, like Q, like letter Q, con, right? That's a privately owned enterprise, right? They do that for money, and that I understand perfectly. It's quite okay to earn money. I have nothing against that, but CNCF is not supposed to be that. They're supposed to be supporting projects, and so a bit disappointed there. But other than that, absolutely great.
So what else happened on day 1? Do you remember anything? Just to be transparent, it's only been a week from as we're recording this. So
yeah. So again, I cannot say what happened because I did not go to talks except that half of the keynote. What happened is, in my case, going from booth to booth, finding people, and everybody extremely excited about the event, about the prospects and everything. A lot of talks about cost. FinOps is becoming mainstream, let's say. I already mentioned security. Security is also taken seriously, but taken seriously by, that's kind of curious, not necessarily by security-related companies that exist already forever, but completely relatively new companies, new guys taking a different approach to security. Not thinking anymore, hey, I'm going to give you an Excel sheet that will tell you how horrible you are, but I'm going to help you be more secure. Which sounds logical, kind of like, why not? But it's not something that has been greatly missing in that space.
What was one of the more surprising things you saw on the show floor, since that's pretty much the only place you spent other than the hallway?
Man, what is the most surprising thing? I don't know, man. I don't know. My brain just froze. What was actually most surprised, Actually, I don't remember what was the company. Maybe, I don't know whether it was IBM or somebody. Anyway, there was a guy that put some kind of small podium with a microphone yelling at everybody. Like a salesman, come to our raffle, come to our raffle. That was so tragically funny, man. I did not believe that people still do that.
So he was like on a little stage platform.
Yeah, on a little stage
screaming.
with a microphone and speakers.
Sort of like a street preacher, if you will.
Exactly, street preacher. That's the vibe. Exactly.
That's what it felt
exactly.
like. Okay, interesting.
Yelling at people, people running away from him.
Doesn't seem to be doing what you want it to do.
No, it's kind of underestimating. I think that companies who, and there were quite a few, I think, that take a purely marketing approach were kind of failing big time, right? Almost people not paying attention.
Versus,
hey, kind of like let's talk about stuff, right? I can explain you stuff, I can tell you stuff, kind of, but taking more human approach instead of, hey, would you like to buy my new vacuum cleaner type of stuff?
You mean a human treating another human like a human?
Exactly. That's a good decision. That's a good definition. Exactly. Treating humans as humans and not as...
not human? As a lead?
As a lead, exactly.
Obviously, you ran into a lot of our friends there.
Oh, yeah.
Which it's sort of... I'm assuming you saw Annalise at least once.
Oh, yeah. Annalise was there. Our friends that are now in VMware are there.
I saw Carlos Sanchez did a thing on Adobe Experience Manager. He had a session on that. Not that you went to it, but...
Not that I went, but yeah. Basically, KubeCon, some people went to talk, some people went to corridors to talk, and then the real KubeCon was starting afterwards. We even had an official KubeCon bar in the old city where everybody was hanging when they were not on organized parties. And I have a feeling that companies actually invested more money in organizing parties in expensive places than paying for the booth.
That's interesting. We'll talk about that in a different episode. I do want to talk about that, but not here. I want to stay focused on KubeCon. What do you think is going to be happening between now and KubeCon NA?
Maybe companies are going to continue working whatever they're doing.
Do you think a lot of companies are going to go out of business? Do you think a lot of companies are going to go out of business between now and then?
I'm not sure between now and then, but between now and this time next year, oh yeah. If you look at the list of sponsors, I guarantee that I'm trying to be now very conservative, but 20% will not be sponsors next year. First of all, because companies appear with completely random ideas that very often do not make sense, but they get VC money, and then you go and say, what is this? And then they explain to you, and you say, why? Without naming names. But there were quite a few of companies like that. And now that we're in the year when there is no VC money to be given away freely to anybody who says Kubernetes, I expect that we will see, maybe not Detroit because it's too soon, but Amsterdam next year. We should actually make a screenshot of this year's sponsors and compare it with next year's sponsors and see whether I'm right. 20%, no, for sure.
You say 30%?
Did you say 30? Okay, let it be 30 then.
20. I
guarantee
20. 20. Yeah, 20.
I guarantee 20, yeah.
20 seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I'm being conservative here. So
yeah. So what would you have done differently in going to KubeCon other than remembering to sign up for the day zero?
So one thing that as attendee, you mean, or
as an attendee? No, as an attendee.
No, I would do nothing.
And you could do the same thing too as an organizer, because we have people that listen on both sides of it. So talk about both. I
would do nothing different, to be honest, as attendee, because to me those conversations with people are much more valuable than going to sessions. Right? I'm kind of lucky that I have friends kind of. So it's not going to a random person and saying, who are you, right? To me personally, I will do the same in Detroit. I'm almost certain because, again, I can watch the videos. I don't think that videos, I think there is much more value going to a live talk than a video, just to clarify. More value, without doubt. But personally, I prefer hanging out with people. It's my thing. So I wouldn't do anything differently, except maybe sleep a bit more, go to bed earlier in Detroit.
Oh, you'll go to bed before 6 a.m.? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Or not go straight to the sessions.
Exactly. So did you answer what you would do as a vendor, organizer,
No,
whatever you want to call it? Okay. What would you do different there?
One thing that I really, really liked about DockerCon, and I don't think that we had that in KubeCon, I might be wrong, is some kind of mechanism to organize around certain subjects and kind of get groups of people together to simply talk about stuff, right? We had that in DockerCon, even leading one of those groups, right? Kind of, I don't remember what was the subject, but let's say, hey, GitOps, let's kind of like gather, have a space within a conference where we can talk about some given subject. I really, really enjoyed those. And I think that they were very, very valuable in KubeCon. So kind of maybe, reserve one big room, split it into 4 places and say, hey, from 2 to, 3, here we can talk about X, whatever X is.
What you're talking about is a birds of a feather sort of unconference within the conference.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they didn't have that birds of a feather track available at KubeCon.
Not to my knowledge. So I might be completely wrong, right?
So as a vendor, you're trying to think of ways that, okay, even if the conference doesn't provide it, you're going to try to come up with a way to say, hey, over in this back corner of this hallway at 2:00.
Yeah.
Come meet up over there because you've already done your scouting. That's a pretty, it's far enough away, but close enough at the same time to be usable. And
exactly.
You don't have to go through the conference center or hotel mess to figure out, am I allowed to use this or not?
Yeah.
And in October in Detroit, it's actually going to be pretty nice outside as long as it's not rain.
Cold yet? Okay.
It's not going to be, well, it'll be cold for you, but it won't be cold.
For me, it's always cold, yeah. And another thing that the food was absolutely horrible. But I guess that's common always. That's always, right?
Especially for 7,500 people, it's hard to get food right for that volume.
Yeah. But I'm not very fond of fast food, but I think, hey, if you actually brought me pizza slices, I think I would be happier than random stuff that looks disgusting.
Like hard bread that isn't supposed to be hard bread.
Yeah.
Or chicken that is supposed to be beef, or whatever it is. So overall, how would you rate KubeCon EU? 1 to 5.
1 to 5.
1 to
4.
5.
4 mostly, 4. And it gets 4 instead of 5, mostly because of not being extremely happy with CNCF itself, kind of being maybe too commercial. But other than that, hey, 7,000 people, I think, give or take. I haven't checked the numbers, but I think it was something like that. And everybody full of enthusiasm, kind of like. I think that people looked like they were like let off the leashes, running around. So it was funny to look at people.
Did they know how to react? Some people did, and some people didn't.
Yeah, there was some kind of awkwardness, kind of like, oh, do we bump? Do we shake? Do we hug? Do we, what do we do, kind of, in social situations?
Yeah, but that's been true forever with most of us. So
yeah, but
it didn't take a pandemic for that.
Yeah, that's true. But now it was a bit more, right? Everybody would go to those parties, and then everything becomes normal.
So you give it a 4 out of 5. You have strong hopes for KubeCon Detroit.
Oh, I cannot wait for it. I cannot explain how excited I am, because I gave up on the idea that I would ever see Detroit, and this is my one-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, take it or leave it. It's your choice. Apologies to anybody that's in Detroit or in Michigan.
Yeah, sorry for that, girls, boys.
Whatever. So anyway, we talked about a live event today. And who would have thought this is, okay, we're in 2022. How many live events have you been to?
Since COVID?
Let's say since March 2020 until May 2022. How many live events have you been to?
2, including KubeCon.
Including KubeCon.
Yeah.
So in the next episode, we're going to talk about events. And more specifically, are in-person events dead?
In person? Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Because obviously you just went to one, but let's see if we're going to keep seeing them or not. So anyway, that's the next episode.
We hope this episode was helpful to you. If you want to discuss it or ask a question, please reach out to us. Our contact information and a link to the Slack workspace are at devopsparadox.com/contact. If you subscribe through Apple Podcast, be sure to leave us a review there. That helps other people discover this podcast. Go sign up right now at devopsparadox.com to receive an email whenever we drop the latest episode. Thank you for listening to DevOps Paradox.